Welcome to Bag Talk. We are back. This episode of Bag Talk is brought to you by Strawberry Lemon Shake-Ups at the Stand. I'm actually drinking one right now. It's Saturday, so it might be a little extra in the Strawberry Lemonade Shake-Up. Today is Saturday, June 13th, the year of our Lord 2020. The United States is burning down, but we are here to talk about sports and sports only. For the next 4 weeks or so, we're going to go back for at least, actually for the foreseeable future, we're going to go back to doing weekly episodes until we got more stuff to talk about in the NFL that we might do bi-weekly. But right now we're doing weekly episodes each week, I think, at least for these next 8 weeks, the next 2 months, I guess, until August. We're going to be taking each week, we're going to be doing one week per NFL division. I'm going to go by each team's division, what I think their win-loss total is going to be this year, how I think they're going to be, what kind of improvements they are, how far away I think they are from competing, or how thin I think their sort of margin for error in terms of competing is. I want to start off right now by saying I do think we are getting a full 16-game NFL season this year. I don't think, at least for the first part of it, or beginning it, there's going to be any fans in the stadiums. Which a lot of people have made the joke to me, well, that the Bengals have been doing that for years. Well, yeah. But this year it's disappointing to me that there's not going to be any fans, and I get why. And there's people dying of coronavirus. It's an infectious disease, and you can't have big crowds yet. But for me, I was really hoping to go to... I had circled like 5 Bengals games this year I wanted to go to. I mean, the home opener against the Chargers, just because I wanted to be there for Joe Burrow's first game as a Bengal. The home game, the road game in Indianapolis against the Colts. I wanted to go to a Browns game. I wanted to go to a Steelers game. And I wanted to go to the game they have against the Giants in November, the weekend of Thanksgiving. Right now, I would guess my best bet for a game I'm getting to is probably going to be the Giants game on Thanksgiving. Is what I think the earliest that stadium is going to be open to people is. And maybe... So we're going to start this week with the NFC West. We're talking what I think is going to be one of the most competitive divisions in football this year. I think the NFC West is going to have at least 2 playoff teams. They're going to have 3 teams that are going to win 9. They're going to have a winning record. And the one team that's not, I think is going to be very competitive and is going to have a lot of those close one-score losses that kind of signal that they're just a step away, maybe a couple players away on one side of the ball from being very good. So we'll start off with the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals might not be able to tell by wins. Cardinals went 5-10-1 last year. The tie against the Lions, I believe. They played the 49ers really close twice. Cliff Kingsbury's offense, I think, works in the NFL. If the quarterback's going to be given time, if they improve the offensive line, I think it 100% works. I think that he's going to get to the playoffs eventually as a head coach. I definitely don't think he was the disaster dumpster fire hire that I think a lot of people thought he was. I think he got a lot of that because he was replacing a coach who only got 1 year as a head coach. He's replacing a coach who, he was a coach in college who I think finished either exactly 500 or 2 games under 500. But he got good wins. I mean, he ran a good offense. He didn't let the defense out of control, and that's what cost him. I mean, you're yelling at these guys for not recruiting defensive players. But that's another. I'm not going to get into that right now. The Cardinals made maybe the biggest surprise splash of the offseason when they traded David Johnson and change for DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins, who I think is probably the best receiver in the NFL, is going to probably reach new heights, as I think Kyler Murray is the best quarterback he's played with thus far in the NFL. He joins the receiving core with Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, who I think is a receiver on the rise. I think he'll be a very viable third option in the slot or out wide if they want to throw him out wide and have Fitzgerald work in the slot, catching short passes, slants. And then Andy Isabella, who I think can come out and be a kick returner. He can be a speed guy, a slot guy. And he ran a 4.34 at the combine when he was coming out 2 years ago or last year from UMass. I think they have a lot of fun pieces on this offense. The one concern looking at the offense is tight end, but looking at usage, Cliff Kingsbury doesn't use tight ends a whole lot. Their starting tight end this year was their last year's Max Williams, former Baltimore Raven, BYU Cougar. I keep saying a lot. That's gonna get annoying. He had 15 receptions for one touchdown last year. I think he had 200 some yards. So the tight end is not important in that system, obviously. So the tight end doesn't concern me that they don't have a great tight end there. I mean, you can find tight ends anywhere. They're a dime a dozen, I think. You can take one and make him you can take any tight end, I think, in the league, and if he's big enough and has the right skills, he's going to be a 10-touchdown tight end if you want him to. The offensive line's where I've started to find a couple problems. DJ Humphries, I think, is a good good right tackle from Florida. Jordan Pugh, a longtime starter with the Giants. He's been a starting guard in the league for 10 years now. I think he's earned his keep. I don't think he's one of the question marks that you really have to worry about with the Arizona Cardinals. And then their steal of the draft, I thought, their second steal of the draft. We'll get to the first steal in a little bit. The second biggest steal of the NFL draft this year for the Arizona Cardinals by themselves was getting Houston tackle Josh Jones. He was a guy who I wanted the Bengals to get with the first pick of the second round, and then when he was there at the beginning of the third round, I also wanted him there. I thought he was, outside of those 5 guys that were going to go in the top 20 or top 15, I thought he was the best of the second tier of offensive tackles that there were in the draft. I wanted him for the Bengals. They went receiver and linebacker, which are both areas of need also. But the Cardinals got him, which is important because Kyler Murray was running around like a chicken with his head cut off last year at times during the season because the Cardinals' O-line was not very good. I think they allowed quarterback pressures on 56% or more than half of their drop back passing plays. So you got 3 guys there, and then their center has my favorite name, probably my new favorite name in football, which is J.R. Sweezy. I believe J.R. Sweezy was a long-time member of the Seattle Seahawks. He jumped ship last year, came to Arizona. He was not a problem with that offensive line. So they returned, I think, the 3 best guys from that year, from their line last year. Mason Cole at center is a problem. I think he's going to give up a lot of pressures at the middle, but with Pugh and Sweezy at the guards, I think that's helped a lot. And then having a young stud like Josh Jones at the left tackle, the blind side of your quarterback, that helps out a ton. I mean, that changes the entire course of the offense. The Cardinals, I think, are going to struggle this next upcoming year is on defense, where they are talented on defense, but they are not good. I mean, you look at the end 4 players on the 3 levels of defense. You have Chandler Jones up front, who has consistently been one of the top pass rushers in the NFL, although he hasn't gotten a whole lot of recognition for it because he's playing in Arizona and not winning games. He's consistently sacking the quarterback, getting after the quarterback, brother of John Jones and Arthur Jones, former New England Patriot. Then at the defensive back level in the back, you have Budda Baker, the safety, and you have Patrick Peterson, who's been one of the top cornerbacks of his generation the last couple years. Patrick Peterson has been on a little bit of a downside as he's aged. I don't think he's aged great. He's a guy who they've dangled for trade bait a little bit. They haven't found a great offer. But he's still a guy that I think probably the 31 other teams in the NFL would gladly have in their secondary. He's probably going to go down as one of the best Arizona Cardinals of all time, right up there with Dick Knight, Train Lane, and they had another cornerback recently who I forgot. Antrell Roll was a safety, not a cornerback, but my point stands. Budda Baker, the young safety from Washington, he's been an impact player for them in the back. They get Javon Kennard from the Detroit Lions. There's a pickup for them in the linebacking core, which I think is going to help out a lot. They're trying to move on from Hassan Reddick right now. Rumors are he could be a Bengal. But the biggest steal they have in the draft this year was the biggest steal of the draft overall period, which is Isaiah Simmons, the do-it-all guy from Clemson. Simmons, I thought, was the second most talented guy in the NFL last year. Or in the draft this year, I mean. Sorry, I was looking out the window. My mind was elsewhere. He was the second most talented guy in the draft this year. He could play safety. He played slot cornerback. He played inside linebacker, outside linebacker. He can do anything. I think his talent level is that of... I think he has a great talent level, but his ceiling can be a more talented, more athletic Bobby Wagner, or a quicker sort of anchor the defense like a Ray Lewis was. I think he could be the Arizona Cardinals middle linebacker guy for 15 years. I think that's how good he is. I think he makes this defense. He takes 5 points per game off this defense from last year. But that being said, a guy like Isaiah Simmons is only as good. I mean, he's a great player, but there's having Isaiah Simmons, and then there's using Isaiah Simmons the right way. And that's where the concerns come up with defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, whose defense ranked last and second to last in the NFL in rush and pass defense last year. If Isaiah Simmons was on the New England Patriots, or if he was on the Seattle Seahawks, or if he was on the San Francisco 49ers, I think he might win Defensive Player of the Year this year. That's how good I think he is. But because he's in a system where his defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph, who stunk as defensive coordinator of the Broncos, who got that job because of a lackluster stint with the Dolphins, whose best success really came as a defensive backs coach for the Bengals in that early 2010s run with the playoffs. I don't think he should be calling defensive plays. I don't think he's good at it. I think he's what keeps the Arizona Cardinals out of the playoffs. I think they go 7-9, finishing last in the division. I think they're close. I think there's going to be a lot of high-scoring, close losses where you look at the defense and you're like, if they could have gotten one or two stops, they could have won this game. Or if they hadn't gone with that coverage, then they would have won this game. I think Cliff Kingsbury goes, again, I think he continues to grow this year. I think Vance Joseph probably gets fired. I think they find a good up-and-coming defensive coach. Or maybe they're just the Cliff Kingsbury teams that were at Texas Tech, where they're constantly held back by their defense and can never sort of transcend to that next level. Quick side note, the Cardinals punter is Andy Lee. He's 37 years old. He was the punter on the 49ers for forever. That's just a side note. I couldn't believe Andy Lee was the Cardinals punter. That was crazy. So Arizona 7-9. I think they have a high-powered offense. I think their defense has a lot of talent. I think they're going to force some turnovers and get sacks, but I think